Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today is Wednesday, May 6th, 2020, just one day after the other Flight Sim news video. And I wanted to throw this together real quick because this is an update to yesterday's story about Microprose and their recent announcements. So I happened upon this article over at Gameindustry.biz, and they did a rather in-depth article on what's going on over there. And it looks like Wild Bill is more of a consultant than he is running the show over at this new Microprose. And some of what I was talking about seems to be true, or what I was, guessing, I guess. It looks like the new Microprose is somewhat of a publisher, more than just a developer, but they are going to develop a couple things of their own. So what it goes on to talk about here is over the past few years, Ligeti, which is the new CEO, David Ligeti, is the new CEO of Microprose. And the guy has a background in military simulations. So towards the end of this article, other than the talking about how Wild Bill Steely got his start, if you get to the end of it here, the guy Ligeti already runs two large companies, Titan IM, which makes world mapping software for use in simulations, and Virtual Simulation Systems, which develops sims for the military and other organizations in need of training. So this guy has a background in simulations, which is really promising. Then he goes on to say there was never an ambition to get the Microprose brand to do anything particular, but to basically find out what happened to it and see if it's possible to produce some games again, he says. And he says, I got a great mentor in Wild Bill. He's just incredible. We've been talking for a couple of years now. To be honest, without Wild Bill giving a lot of solid advice, who knows if we'd even be sitting here today talking about this. He goes on to say there's a lot of love for the Microprose brand out there, and that's true. And then he goes, to begin with, this particularly means military combat simulators. 2 of 3 games, Triassic Games Sea Power and Dry Dock Dreams Task Force Admiral, fall into this genre, while the third, Second Front's Hexdraw, is a war-themed strategy game. Leggett says there are adventure games on the way, and his team is looking at racing games. But most titles will be combat-oriented, and he already has Steely's seal of approval. And then it goes on to say, these games, as I look at them, are all about making decisions, says Steely. Sid, talking about Sid Meier, always said you need to make games with limited information that are time critical with significant outcomes and reward players that have made the right decisions. These games are adventures. You might have a boring job, but in these you can be a fighter pilot and help win. World War II. It's real enough that you feel you actually accomplished something and not because you got a power-up. And let's see, what else was interesting in here? Oh, and Leggett is not inexperienced in the game space. He spent 20 years developing military simulations, starting at Bohemia Interactive's Australian studio before branching out to form his own company. He's confident his time working with the military to develop relevant and authentic software will help the new Microprose deliver the type of experience fans are looking for. He goes on to say, every single game we're doing has a soul. They're not just cookie-cutter games we're pumping out. We're really putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into these games. You'll feel part of our games. You'll feel it if your crew get damaged or hurt. You'll actually think about them and not as numbers or skins. We're trying to avoid going that way. And here's the cool part. So to take this even further, Microprose has developers building various virtual reality titles at the moment. B17 Flying Fortress simulators were among the old publisher's biggest hits. So a cooperative VR title about flying one of these iconic aircrafts is in the works. There's the announcement. So the B17 Flying Fortress title from Microprose is going to be a VR game. For all the talk of authenticity and simulation, Leggett is conscious that these products still need to be accessible as video games, particularly if Microprose wants to reach the broader audience it needs to thrive. Here's the important part, guys. We won't have a cockpit with over 500 switches where it takes you 10 minutes just to get off the tarmac, he says. Ooh, that's a jab at Eagle Dynamics, isn't it? We want to get people quickly into the game, be part of it, and be entertained. So, that comment right there, on one hand, I'm happy about that because as much as I love the hardcore sims, I do like accessibility. I do like a game sometimes with a military theme, so I think this will be pretty cool. It almost sounds to me like the B17 sim is going to be like Bridge Commander of Star Trek, where you get in there with a bunch of people and you have to manage the plane and work together to reach the common goal. So that sounds promising, but at the same time, make no mistake about it, with those comments, it is clear to me that they are not going for a true simulation. They are going for a game of the B17. And again, I don't think this is a bad thing. I just want to help people, realize to have realistic expectations for this. He also goes on to say the majority of Microprose titles will be out next year, with some due by the end of 2020 and more in the works for the next 4 years. Leggett teases that it won't just be brand new titles either. Ooh, another hint possibly? Could we see Gunship? To further stir up enthusiasm for the brand's return, the new Microprose will be dusting off and revamping a lot of nostalgic titles that will make a lot of people happy, although full details won't be revealed until later this year. Ooh, once again, there's another nugget for us, Could we see a new M1 tank commander? Could we see a new gunship? Could we see a new Falcon even? Technically, Falcon was Spectrum Holobyte, and then they were picked up by Microprose. So there's that. There has been quite a surge in retro gaming, says Leggett. A lot of older Microprose games are selling quite well on Steam. We're here to appeal to quite a wide demographic among gamers. I think the average gamer today is 34 years old, and a lot of them probably have some recollection of Microprose or their dads playing those games. The games we're producing will appeal to a lot of different people, not just the people who remember Microprose. Pretty cool stuff. And that is the most important stuff I see in this article that goes to, back up some of what I was saying. Is it looks like Microprose is going to be a publishing house more than a developing house on their own. But, I mean, that might not be a bad thing. And with this Leggett guy in the helm there, taking care of things, in charge of everything, I think it's promising since he has a military simulations background, and Wild Bill is only being used as a consultant more than anything. So this could be better than I anticipated, but I just wanted to get the news out there that the B17 title is not going to be a simulation along the lines of DCS or IL2. It looks like it's being developed as a VR game. However, the mention of developing a lot of stuff for VR in this article too is very promising, because I can only imagine how fantastic Gunship in VR would be, or a new M1 tank platoon in VR would be. So there's definitely a lot of little nuggets of information to be found in this article, and I'll throw a link to this at the bottom of the video as usual, so you can read the entire thing itself in its entirety. And one of the other things is he goes on to say, I think this could be a 100 million company down the way. I won't be here, but I'll be cheering from heaven while I'm playing golf, Wild Bill Steely says. That's funny. But anyways, I wanted to get the news out there about this because this is a great follow-up to yesterday's announcements. So, I just think that they could have announced at least one simulation. I was underwhelmed by the strategy games, but keep in mind the old Microprose had strategy games too. There was the XCOMs, there was the Civilization. Microprose was known for more than sims, but I think it was half simulations and half strategy games, and they had a couple adventures here and there. But I'm going to leave it at that, guys. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to hit that like button, and until next time, guys,